5 degrees in downtown Seattle. I'm Ursula Royteen.
From Woodinville to Westlake, this is KIRO Radio 97.3 FM. News and talk, powered by the Pacific Northwest.
The Dori Monson Show on KIRO Radio. This is The Big Lead.
Coming to you from the Carter Subaru studio and streaming on Facebook Live. Welcome. Welcome to the big show. Oh, we've got so much for you today. We've got exclusive stuff you're not going to hear anywhere else. We're down to the final four in Monson Madness, where you have picked the best sound bites of 2018. And we're down to the final four now. So we'll have that for you a little bit later. And coming up at 12:30, you may recall a week ago, I was talking about Tim Eyman because he had sent out an email saying that Attorney General Bob Ferguson's vendetta against him because of Eyman's anti-tax activism. He said that it has led to Eyman filing for bankruptcy and getting a divorce. And I tried to get Tim on the show when he sent that email out to his supporters and the media. And he declined our invitation. And I said, I find him a little exasperating because I have supported most of his initiatives, many of them, not all of them. I'm not a blind supporter, but I've generally given him a platform. And when something personal comes out like that, that's not fun to talk about, I would like him to come on then as well. And so I talked about how exasperated I was with him. We're going to talk exclusively with Tim Eyman about getting a divorce, about bankruptcy, about the tax activism. I'll ask him if it's been worth it because, I would say on balance, and by the way, he's become such a demon to politicians. But all Eyman does is get stuff on the ballot, and then the voters get to decide if they want to be anti-tax. But I'll talk to him about all of that coming up at 12:30 this afternoon. So we got a lot of stuff straight ahead of us. Let's get right to our top story.
The Big Lead. Top story.
Speaking of exasperating, we've got the drug vagrant crisis all around our region. And we have politicians who not only are not interested in real solutions, but they have made the problem much, much worse by making this the number one magnet destination in the country for drug vagrants. And I tell you what, I'm working with some people right now on the stats. We have had so many violent attacks, rapes, attempted rapes on women, and in almost every one of the cases, these are men who have come here from other parts of the country. And we are seeing that while our local politicians have tried to tell us, raise your taxes, you're supporting your neighbors. These are the kids you went to elementary school with, and they've just fallen on hard times. And the accused child rapist, former mayor, he tried peddling that bogus survey that said most of the drug vagrants in our region are homegrown. And anybody who's out on the streets, anybody who knows the reality of this situation knows that we are bringing them in from other parts of the country. And there are a lot of people, neighbors who have had their homes broken into, the business community that is seeing it getting tougher and tougher. And they're not NIMBYs. They're just realists. And they're saying, we just can't keep living with this right in our neighborhood. Well, let's talk about what's going on right now in Seattle's Queen Anne neighborhood, where a lot of business owners are upset because they weren't told about a homeless shelter being built in Lower Queen Anne. Channel 4, they have this story up at comonews.com. They did a great story on this. They talked to one of the business owners, a guy named Robert Wilson with Wilson Marine Works. And the business people, the people who have to actually manage money and make budgets and pay taxes, they know how the city has and the region has completely mismanaged this whole situation.
What the city and the county and the state are spending on the homeless right now, we could buy mall houses in Bellevue.
And so then Channel 4 talked to Dow Constantine. And Dow Constantine, listen to this, because with all of the upset neighbors, listen to the disdain that Dow Constantine has for his constituents.
Sometimes you just have to do what you think is right. That's why I was elected. And we have a crisis around homelessness.
So it doesn't matter if the neighbors are upset. He was elected to just do what's right. But Dow Constantine, by making his own decisions, has been a huge part of this drug problem. When we do things like put heroin death sites in King County, which is the plan, where people can come and get injected under the watchful eye of government, when King County has legalized heroin and meth and every single drug by saying we will not prosecute personal possession amounts, it is the policies of people like Dow Constantine and the people underneath him that has created this problem. And so then they build this shelter that is going to be a nightmare for that community. And I'm going to play that soundbite again because, again, this is the disdain that politicians have for us and our opinions and the reality that we have to deal with.
Sometimes you just have to do what you think is right. That's why I was elected. And we have a crisis around homelessness.
It's also delusional, that soundbite. The reason you were elected, Dow Constantine, is because you have a D next to your name on the ballot. You weren't elected because you're some brilliant statesman, leader. You were elected because you had some name recognition and you're a Democrat. And that's all it takes here. And that's to the shame of the voters that that's all it takes. But it gives these politicians a greatly inflated sense of self-worth. Yes, they elected me and I'm going to do what's right. Well, you've been one of the architects of the destruction of this region in regards to the drug problem. And you're flying by the seat of your pants with this problem, with this crisis, has been a huge part of the reason. So don't tell us that you're now some, brilliant mechanic who's going to figure out a way to get this problem solved and to be so disdainful of the business community. Channel 4 also talked with Dan Heimdahl, who owns Taylor Brake Service.
That's typical Seattle and King County bureaucracy to shove it down your throat.
Yep, that's what they do. They create the problem, then they ask you to fund the solution even if you don't want the solution. Mark Ellerbrook is a regional housing manager, and he says anybody can come to this shelter.
It's completely voluntary. People can come when there's space available.
And so it sounds like from his description that it'll be one of those shelters, low barrier. You're not going to have to be clean. You're not going to have to straighten out your life. And I was talking with friends this morning about there are organizations like Union Gospel Mission. And they say, we'll give you a meal, we'll give you a bed, but you got to get in treatment. You have to stay clean. You can't use while you're eating and sleeping here because they want to change lives. They want to turn lives around and not just perpetuate a problem, not just give people a taxpayer-funded place where they can slowly kill themselves. And that's the problem that we are facing now. The guy that they talked to from Wilson Machine, Robert Wilson, they're tired of it, these business people.
They rob us continually.
And it's a problem that's just not going away.
It's incumbent upon us to try to see how we can use all of our resources to help people who are experiencing homelessness.
Okay. That is not helping people. These low-barrier shelters are giving people a place where they can continue to kill themselves. So, but Dow Constantine's on it. He was elected, so sometimes he has to do unpopular things. Next up in the big league.
The Big Lead. Big local.
And then we see all the crimes that are happening. The story of what happened to this woman in West Seattle yesterday, it is so heartbreaking. And if you've seen the surveillance video, it's frightening. A 71-year-old woman who works in a convenience store on California Avenue in West Seattle. A man walked in. He had a knife in one hand and a pair of handcuffs in the other. And on the surveillance video, you see a brutal attack. He is swinging the handcuffs. He is slashing with the knife at this 71-year-old woman who very likely would have been killed if a delivery driver and customer hadn't been walking by the store and they saw the assault taking place, and they were able to pull the woman to safety. The woman's daughter is Dori Nelson. She talked to our news partners at KIRO 7.
Okay, my mom, first of all, is 71 years old. How I heard the way he came in is he didn't care. He just wanted somebody.
And the guy just wanted cash. And like I said, from the surveillance video, it is a brutal attack.
She was covered in blood. Literally covered in blood.
And, bless the delivery man and the customer who put themselves in harm's way. They pulled this woman to safety.
He saved my mom's life. Thank you so, so much. Words cannot express how thankful I am to them, really.
So we're seeing crimes like this all over the region. I've got some others that I'll share with you a little bit later this afternoon. But middle of the day, convenience store in West Seattle, and a 71-year-old woman brutally attacked. But Dale Constant's on it. He's going to fix the problems on the streets of King County. Okay, on a much lighter note, you have picked the Final Four in Monson Madness.
The Big Lead. Dori Monson Show exclusive.
So, we have 4 sound bites from 2018 that you have selected as your favorites. We started with 32, and now we are down to the Final Four. And my goodness, this is the first time this has ever happened, Nicole. All 4 1 seeds have advanced to the Final Four.
They were pretty clear favorites.
I didn't see the vote breakdown, but
I'm not sure about that, but they were pretty clear favorites of ours.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. So our seeding committee thought these were the 4 best of the year, and you agreed with your votes. So now you got to get us our 2 finalists. And in one of the regions, it's the woman named Diane who called in to tell Ursula how annoyed she was with Ursula and Nicole because occasionally they disagree with me on the show.
Ursula, Diane, I've called you before, 42579. I just heard you say to Dori, no, not everybody thinks the way you do. Hey, this guy is your boss. This is the guy who made this program that you came on, okay? You didn't make it. He did, and the success of it. How damn stupid. I take back my apology to you that I made a while ago about Oprah running. Donald Trump wiped out 17 expert politicians.
Okay, let me jump forward here.
That this guy will be doing and knowing. How absurd and stupid can you be? Get real, Ursula, and I will go on until I'm cut off about this because I am so peeved at you and that idiot producer, overnight successes who don't go, for 15 years and get the material and get the knowledge and the expertise that come in as so-called producers, and they think because they have a title, they know everything. And quit saying these things to Dori. Just because Dori and everything you say something doesn't mean that, hey, he's the one running that show.
This one makes me uncomfortable every time I play it.
Oh, I love it.
I know you guys do.
So much.
It makes me horribly, horribly uncomfortable.
The way she says I'm an idiot, like,
I know that.
idiot.
Oh, she
There's so
spits it
much
out.
behind it.
No, it just makes me horribly uncomfortable.
And just to follow up on that, I did talk to her the next day, and
Right.
I told her we were going to air it,
Oh,
and
I
she
know.
said, she probably said some things she shouldn't, but,
So, the name Diane, though, has become very popular, associated with the show.
Oh, I know.
And it's now become a verb, too. Like, you've been Diane.
Yes, I know it.
I wonder if she's listening. Diane,
I just-
let us know if you're listening.
I just am not comfortable with that one. So that's in the Final Four, and it's up against another one that I'm not comfortable with, where the guy I grew up next to in Ballard, who still lived there as of a few months ago. His first name was Richard. He went by Dick. And there was a story on the news that his house was filled with mold and it might have to be torn down. And the guy still lived there. So I saw this news story and I go, whoa, literally right next door to the house I grew up in Ballard. And when I tried to talk about it on the air, it just came out wrong. When I was a little boy, I would send pizzas and taxi cabs to the guy who we were always feuding with and fighting with, and he was drinking every day. And the guy still lived in the house until just a few months ago. And imagine my shock when I saw my boyhood neighbor's Dick. That's his name. Wait a second. My boyhood neighbor, Dick's house.
Wow.
Dick is his name.
Whoa.
Dick is his name.
Yes.
That's a drop.
No. It should be a dump. It was an innocent mistake by me, for crying out loud. So Diane against my boyhood neighbor's Richard. That's one of the semifinal matchups in Monson Madness. So go vote right now. MyNorthwest.com, Dori Monson show page, or Facebook.com/Dori Monson. That is the big lead. Coming up right after the news, an exclusive talk with Tim Eyman about how his activism is destroying his personal life. We'll have an up-close and personal chat with him next on the Dori Monson Show.
This hour of the Dori Monson Show is brought to you by Insulation Northwest.
Hey,